Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm J.R. Stewart, the J.R. Stewart, and welcome to Black Man Speak.
And I am TD3, your co host for Black Men Speak. Jimmy, it is Wednesday, July the 9th, 2025. And if it's Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Man Speak. And so let's give a shout out and a big thanks to Count Basie for providing our theme music, to Forest Films and our studio for subsidizing our virtual studio, um, and to Mr. Tommy T.D. Duncan, our news director who goes out and finds excellent stories for us and topics for us to talk about on a weekly basis. I think the work that he puts in is surely has not been publicized enough. So we want to show our appreciation to Tommy for all that he does. We're keeping the show going every week. With that being said, Tom, we're going to do what we do best, which is bringing leading that information about the Black community to social media.
all right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for those who are joining in. If you have not, go ahead and join that chat line. We are going to have of course, another groundbreaking day. We will start off with a short condolence. We have one this week, Jimmy. For those of you who are in the gospel community, you may know this name and or this voice. The Miss Mama Mosi Burks, the legendary gospel singer and longtime member of the Mississippi Mass Choir, who
Okay.
became an ancestor on July the 7th, a few days ago at the age of 92. She is known for her powerful voice and spirited performance, becoming a central figure in the choir's success and influence in gospel music over several decades. She lent her vocals to popular Mississippi Mass choir tracks such as They Got the Word, I'm Not Tired Yet, and This Morning When I Rose. These songs remain among the most played and requested gospel music circles even until today. The Mississippi Mass Choir and Burks' family have begun making arrangements and will provide more details for her angelic voice. We definitely want to send our condolences to the Mississippi Mass Choir and to the Burks family for this diva in the gospel circle, and of course, for those in the musical community as a whole.
Okay.
All right, Jimmy. Also, before we get started, wanted to give a shout out to one of our colleagues and friends who has, by the way, started a new matchmaking business out there, Jimmy. So we're going to give her a quick shout out on Black Men Speak. Of course, we promote entrepreneurship
We
and
do.
expanding our business. I'll let you have a minute or two to share a little bit about the bespoke modern matchmaking platform.
Well, she from what and we know Adrian. We've been knowing Adrian for probably over 30 years. And she's been married with a very successful marriage and to a very good man. So if she's not someone who's trying to tell you how to make this work, she's someone who's actually is making it work. Tom has made it work. So she's picked up a few things along the way. Plus, I've always known Adrian, doing our social discussions because she side with me sometimes, which I know has caused us some heartache from the rest of the group to have to agree with the J.R. Stewart, but she often has. But it's just a very common sense approach. She's a very common sense person. So her service is for people who are looking for romance, Tom, intentional, mature. This is not a try to hook you up and hit it and quit it and move on and for the players out there or for the people who don't want a commitment. If you are serious about looking for some type of connection with someone, you just need a little bit of help. It's not like someone trying to take over your life. You just need a little help with making it happen. Then we can reach out. Do we have Adrian's number available?
You
On
know, she actually has two ways to reach out to her. Www.bespokemodernmatchmaking.com. That is BESPOKE,
Okay.
bespokemodernmatchmaking.com, or 832 373 3417. Again, that's 832 373 888-938-5817. And again, as you say, she helps people skip the app chaos and connect in ways that actually make sense.
True.
Handpicked matches, confidence boosting coaching, and just the right sprinkle of magic. And so, with that being said, reach out to Bespoke.
The other important thing, Tom, is that it doesn't cost you anything to reach out. So your initial consultation, to just give her a call and talk and see what she's about and what she could do for you. It's not going to cost you anything. So, but a little bit of time.
All right. All right, Jimmy, let's go ahead and go to our stories. We got a lot to
Well, we
talk
got
about.
one more thing, Tom,
Yes.
before we jump to our story. We added a movie to our channel on YouTube yesterday.
Ah,
Um, and that movie was Drumline. It's sort of a sequel to the original Drumline. I think it was called A New Beat, Drumline A New Beat. And since adding it to, we've created a playlist. Since adding it to our channel and playlist, I think, Tom, you told me that we've gotten over 1,000 views so
yep.
far.
In one
We
day.
still, in one day. So we are still trying to figure this out, people. As far as basically, we're going to add new movie every week. And in fact, our next movie has already been selected, Claudine. I don't know if you guys remember
Mm,
that with James Earl Jones. Um, and the reason I picked that movie, Tom, because it takes a look at life in the 60s, a woman raising kids on welfare who works, which is a violation, but also to have a man in your life was a violation also. Because if the welfare department were to catch them dating, just dating, then they could stop her benefits and force them to pay child support. And so this is just one of those policies that made it difficult for women who collected benefits, who had children, to ever find a husband or even just find a man to date that may lead to marriage. So it's presented in sort of a humorous way. So I just thought, but if you guys have suggestions as far as future movies, please let me know. And we're still trying to work out the logistics of maybe a separate showtime to have a 30-minute discussion about the movie selection. But if you guys go to our channel on YouTube, if you haven't watched the movie already, please go out there, Drumline 2, and then actually, if you want to get ahead of the curve, you can go check out Claudine also. And as we work out, you guys tell us what you think is a good day for us maybe to have a second meeting just to do a quick movie review. And maybe it'll be 30 minutes plus, but we'll start out with 30 minutes and see how it goes.
all right, that sounds good, Jimmy. So again, for those of you who are on the chat line, right now we have Mr. Mr. Vincent Stokes. Want to thank you for joining us, and of course, cousin Audrey K is on the chat line as well. Want to thank them for joining us. Let us know your thoughts and your strategies on doing the movie review, and we'll see how we can adapt that. Whether it's a separate show with a smaller, shorter segment, or maybe tucking a few minutes on this show. All right, Jimmy, let's go ahead and move forward with our stories for the day. We're going to add a little market news, Jimmy.
What do we have, Tom?
We're going to talk about a little market news today, Jimmy, in the financial markets. Just today, Nvidia, the AI equipment giant and juggernaut, jumped 2% in markets today, making it the first company to reach the $4 trillion market cap of any company in the world. Now the world's most valuable company. Nvidia shares surpassed Microsoft and Apple, both of which hit $3 trillion in market cap before Nvidia. Microsoft, of course, the major software giant, is one of Nvidia's biggest and most important customers. The California-based company, founded in 1993, first passed the $2 trillion mark in February of 2024, and then passed the $3 trillion mark in June of this year. NVIDIA has profited heavily from the growing demand for AI, or artificial intelligence hardware and chip technology, since the launch of ChatGPT, which a lot of people use, in 2022. The company has positioned itself as the decisive leader in creating the graphics processing unit that powers large language models. The surge in demand has boosted shares in the chip making giant more than 15-fold in just 5 years. NVIDIA shares are up more than 15% over the last month and 22% since the beginning of this year. The recent rally in NVIDIA has come despite geopolitical tensions and ongoing chip curbs that have dampened sales to China. Nvidia has also recovered from fear sparked by China's DeepSeek model that future AI wouldn't possibly need so many chips. So this is pretty interesting news, Julia. I know you're kind of a tech guy yourself, so I thought this was something pretty interesting. Of course, I know a lot of folks out there probably have positions or shares in Nvidia stock.
Yeah, if I, as a small investor, Tom, I would not invest now. If anytime in the future they were to have a market drop in price, that would be the time to buy because there's a good chance they'll rebound. And I would suggest as soon as they rebound to uh, to cash out and get out of it. And the reason I don't like companies like this long term, Tom, is because they come and they go real fast and they burn out. So with their kind of success, there are going to be other companies, startups, that are going to start popping up to give them competition. Nvidia is not going to operate in this space pretty much and dominated by themselves for very long, where they're not going to be able to keep the competition out, especially the Taiwanese and some of and the Denmark companies who make chips also, and American companies. The TIs of the world, the IBMs to some degree, and the Intels. But eventually, everybody's going to want a piece of the pie, Tom, and that's going to spur competition, which is a good thing. But that competition is going to dump other technology, other chips for AI onto the market, and of course, what are people going to do in order to get market share? They're going to lower the price of their chip to be less, and so this is going to create a price war eventually. That chip, so Nvidia is going to cool off at some point. Their earnings are going to cool off at some point. So, like I said, if you're interested in the company, wait until there's a price drop. When there's as soon as there's a price drop, put your buy order in. But as soon as that the cost recovers, do not fall in love with this chip. Do not stick around long term. Unload it, make your money, unload it, and move on.
I'm going to offer a counter argument. I will agree with you in terms of a potential pullback or waiting for a potential pullback if you're looking at getting positions in NVIDIA. For what it's worth, this is by far the de facto number one player when it comes to sophisticated chip technology driven by artificial intelligence. And anybody, if your head has not been in the sand, knows that AI is driving everything from a lot of unfortunate layoffs for companies that are using automation and advanced technology to replace people. Anyone in any sector can add to that, or additional consumer user use cases for AI. It's not going anyway, going anywhere. Nvidia is the number one chip and technology player in the AI space right now, and there's more than likely there's always going to be a disruption in the market. But at the end of the day, it is number one by far. There's no one even close in second place right now. And in addition to that, if you look at Microsoft, you can take that same argument to Microsoft. It has been the number one de facto leader in the software space for years. And, you know, if you would have taken a position in it, maybe 10 or 15 or even, longer than that, you would be doing extremely well right now. But Microsoft, no one is even close to taking Microsoft off of its perch as the number one Microsoft software company out there. So I would say NVIDIA, even though it may be a little bit expensive for some people because it's $163 a share almost right now, wait for that pullback. Something catastrophic may happen. When certain folks are in office, they do something that kind of pulls back. We've already had that this year with the tariffs. And so you had an opportunity to get in at a pretty good price earlier this year. But I don't see NVIDIA going any place anytime soon. Just make sure you get it at the right price.
Well, Tom, that would be good advice. As far as Microsoft, they have definitely positioned themselves to be a market leader in their space, software space. They have faced some competition. They had some competition from IBM when they developed OS2. Linux is still out there as a serious competitor to Microsoft servers and SQL servers. I like the Linux servers because they're more stable, as far as my personal choice over Microsoft servers. But But you're right; they have certainly positioned themselves, but but it's a lot easier to break into the chip market than it is to break into the software market
Agreed.
against Microsoft. Microsoft has pretty much solidified themselves as a home in the workplace computer OS. And nobody's going to take them down in that space anytime soon. And because they have that space, there are other products um, which may not be as good. I mean, Apple can certainly give them a run for their money in the web space. Some of the other browsers out there are much better than Edge or I don't know what the latest Microsoft browser is. But like I said, that's a little harder. If you're interested in the stock, like you said, wait for a pullback. Wait for you can buy it a little cheaper, and then wait for the recovery to happen. Don't buy when it's high, and then panic when it goes low and sell. So that's the opposite of what we know to make money, which is buy low and sell high. But you got to be disciplined, Tom. As soon as that stock reach a goal, set a goal for it. 1%, 2%. You want to make $100, 200, $1,000, whatever it is. When you reach that goal, Tom, sell it and move on. Do not fall in love with it simply because it's riding high right now. Trust me, at some point, the market is going to change and run against you, and that stock is going to be running not so high at that point, and there are going to be a lot of people going to panic.
Yeah. And one thing you may want to consider, it depends on what your investment philosophy is. And we are not investment advisors. We are
No,
not
we're not.
investment advice at all. But based upon that philosophy, what you may want to consider, Nvidia by far is the number one
They
chip.
are on top right now, Tom.
Exactly. If you want to consider looking at their competition, there is competition out there, but there is currently not a threat. But if
Correct.
you want to look at other chip technology manufacturers who are in that space, who may be a little bit more affordable for your portfolio, you want to consider that. Jimmy just mentioned Taiwan Semiconductor. Intel has, oh, it's hit the tank a long time ago, so it's not even in the competition right now. So there are a few other companies out there, but Nvidia is the big dog on the block, and this is a historic moment, the first company ever to hit $4 trillion. And so we wanted to at least
And of
talk.
course, with that kind of success, Tom, there are a lot of copycats out there. They're going to figure that they can ride that coattail. So we'll see what happens. Just yeah, we're not financial advisors. We're not stock advisors. So make sure you do your homework when you're investing in stock. What's our next story, T?
All right, we'll do another one in the markets, and we'll keep this one brief as well. Kind of
Okay.
driven by this article. Bitcoin also hit a new all-time high today with a fresh record, rallying from trading today. Just before 3 p.m. Central, Bitcoin hit a high of $112,052.24, surpassing its May 22 all-time high of $111,999. The flagship cryptocurrency has been trading in a tight range for several weeks, despite billions of dollars flowing into Bitcoin exchange traded funds. Bitcoin purchases by public companies outpaced ETF or exchange traded fund inflows in the second quarter of this year. Bitcoin is up 2% in the past month and just over 16% in 2025. For some perspective, Bitcoin, and I know that there are some folks out there, especially the younger folks who are into Bitcoin. 10 years ago, Bitcoin was trading at just $225 per coin, which today, 10 years later, would be about a 500x return in 10 years. Just 5 years ago, Bitcoin was trading at $9,000. This was, of course, before the catastrophe. This was before the healthcare pandemic. But Bitcoin was trading at $9,000, which in 5 years would have produced about a 12x return. Institutional buyers, of course, have gotten involved with investing in Bitcoin, and of course, the government. I call it the
Yeah,
mafia.
the U.S. government is the largest Bitcoin investor in the world.
Exactly. So, all that being said, for those of you who are out there who are in the Bitcoin space, congratulations for those of you who have been Bitcoin investors for a long time, because you've made out like a fat cat. And for those who are out there who are looking at, I wouldn't call a stable, investment opportunity, but just need to know a little bit more about Bitcoin. Even if you don't invest in it, you need to know what it is, what the use case is, and why it may be important in the future, because there may become a time where it has a little bit more influence in what the markets have been doing, even though they've been pretty separate. What are your thoughts, Jimmy?
Well, I mean, I never invested in Bitcoin. I was a Dogecoin investor, and that did not turn out to be a very good investment, but it's okay. You take your chances. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But here's why I was excited, Tom, is because setting up an exchange, the servers, the transaction servers, and establishing a Bitcoin to have your own private money that's not centralized, it's not regulated by any government or any bank or any institution was the key to black freedom for me. I thought this is an opportunity for us to set up our own Bitcoin, to use it to trade with each other, to do commerce with each other, and to benefit each other. So, for you Bitcoin investors out there, take the knowledge that you have of how Bitcoins work, and but at some point, we should get really serious about setting up our own exchange, Tom. And I'm going to tell you about these Bitcoin servers, Tom. They're all being run by volunteers. You have tens of thousands of Bitcoin servers that sort of track the history of every transaction. And the people who run those, they don't get paid for it. You know, and some companies are now giving them a little bit of reward if you run servers for them. But initially, the people who ran the initial transaction service for Bitcoin, those are all volunteers. And then if you were lucky enough to for one of your servers to actually be able to control a Bitcoin, which meant that you had control over every transaction until you found another server to replace you. And the way they do that, Tom, is that they come up with a very huge a number. They'll take a prime number, multiply it times another prime number, and we're not talking just 2,000 bits or 4,000 bits. You're talking about numbers that are more in the millions of bits, and it's at random. And every Bitcoin server out there can take a stab at guessing what the number is. And if you guess correctly, then your servers get to control the transaction, and you get the commission off those transactions if you own the servers. I remember years ago, Tom, I had a coworker whose husband was used their garage to build a Bitcoin farm. I advised her against it, but Tom, last time I checked, just last year, somehow they had cornered about 1% of the Bitcoin transactions. They had a nice data center that they had grown into. And 1% may not seem like a lot, but when you have tens upon tens of thousands of servers out there competing to try to become the transaction server so you can collect the commission, that really works out too. A nice little bit of money once that happens. So, and to have 1% is a pretty good accomplishment. So, there's probably a good reason she's not returning my phone call now. She's too rich.
There you go. On some island someplace.
Probably so. But her and her husband are probably, I'm pretty sure, are doing well now. Uh, but this is something, Tom, that technology we should learn how to do. And at some point, I know the African nations, a lot of them would easily do this if they could, if they had the expertise and a lot of the knowledge. We have some of that knowledge, Tom. We should be willing to work with African nations and among ourselves to set up our own cryptocurrency.
Gotcha. As I close, or as we close on this story, there's really only one dog out there. Everything in cryptocurrency is basically following Bitcoin, so to speak. So even though it is obviously an expensive investment, do know that you should know about it, why it's important, and what its use cases are. Number one, and number two, you can buy Bitcoin as partial coins. You don't have
And you do fractional Bitcoin. So
exactly.
that is true also.
Okay, we're not advocating for it, but just sharing the information. All right,
I'm advocating for us to get it to develop our own Bitcoin, Tom, our
gotcha.
own cryptocurrency.
All right, let's go to our next story. This one's going to be, I think, kind of interesting and fun for those, especially you cruise heads out there. Carnival Cruise has recently been addressing a backlash after announcing or reinforcing a new set of rules that many have accused as anti-fun at best, and possibly anti-black at worst. Among the notorious cruise line's new "Have Fun, Be Safe" guidelines are bans on non-electric handheld fans on dance floors, along with drinks, children under 18 in public areas after 1 a.m. unless accompanied by an adult or at a designated teen event, Bluetooth speakers, loud music, cannabis, smoking, and more. Recent cruises with the cruise line have begun to complain on social media about what they claim as an unofficial ban on rap and hip hop music. Interesting. The prohibition on handheld, non battery operated fans has become particularly controversial in some spaces. Carnival cited safety concerns over the loud clacking sound these fans make. This practice originated from the viral boots on the ground, where them fans at line dance, where dancers rhythmically clack fans during specific parts of the song. Many critics point out that this dance and fan usage represent a form of black cultural expression now effectively banned on Carnival ships. Another contentious policy involves tighter regulations on personal Bluetooth speakers and what some passengers describe as limitations on playing hip hop and rap music in onboard clubs. While Carnival isn't formally banned these musical genres, multiple passengers report experiencing restrictions when requesting certain songs. Black patrons aren't standing idly, though, as the new rule enforcement gets underway. Many online have been cutting or calling out the brand and even going as far as canceling their upcoming trips with the cruise line based upon these new rules. Now,
I actually can't believe this. We are protesting being disrespectful to other passengers, not being considerate, playing music. Who brings a
they,
Bluetooth
but
on a
but
cruise?
they play music on the ships, Jimmy.
John, the ship plays music.
Mhm.
You know, if you got a personal device with headphones and you want to listen to your music, go for it. But somehow we have this insipid need to go down the street, speakers blasting. We want everyone to hear our damn music. Everybody don't want to hear your music. Everyone don't want to see your underwear. Everyone don't want to see fights breaking out. Tom, come on, you got to be kidding me. That we are actually there are people out there. Cancel your damn trip. If I was Carnival, if I was CEO of Carnival, I would tell you to go tear your ass. I don't want your money if that's the case because you're being disruptive to other customers. Who, like I said once again, who brings Bluetooth on a cruise? If you want to listen
People
to
who want to
music,
listen to their own personal music, their own personal.
put a headset on. Put Bluetooth speakers into your ear so you can hear. You don't have to share this with people who don't want other people who paid their money didn't come on the cruise in order to hear your rap music. Because some reason you want to share and be generous with everyone. You gotta let everybody know that you're listening to Tupac or Biggie or whoever your favorite rap artist is. This is insipid that we do things like this and somehow complain that other people are complaining against this. God, I can't believe this. This is outrageous. This is really embarrassing, Tom. I mean, some of you black folks are embarrassing all of us. This is ridiculous.
Well, one has to do with another. Just like someone doing something that is off the charts doesn't reflect on me. I do get your point. There are certain of these things that I can't understand. Otherwise, children being accompanied by an adult, especially after a certain time of night. I mean, for what it's worth, your child comes up missing. There's a problem, but at the same time, you need to be watching after your child. They shouldn't be out after a certain time of night unaccompanied. The Bluetooth speakers, I've seen those. I presume that they only get so loud. I can understand your perspective on that. The only issue I would have is that some of the music, quite frankly, within the hip hop and rap genre are extremely explicit. And if I have children, for instance, I wouldn't want them being exposed to that either, especially if there's a lot of expletives and a lot of raw language on it. And that seems to be pretty much the MO
But
in
some
most
people are
positions.
not any expertise or raw language. you may not want to listen to it yourself or have your kids listen to it. Period.
Mhm.
Maybe you're into Sinatra, maybe you're into country. But everybody gets to just bring their own music and blast it on their Bluetooth. To share with everyone else. I apologize. Have you noticed, Tom, that we've been getting I've been getting a lot of Amber Alerts today.
I have two. I've actually
Oh,
got
okay. I
one
know
or
if it was
two.
just me or not. Like, damn, got a lot of Amber, a lot of kids being kidnapped. So anyway, uh, Tom, the point of going to the cruise is to enjoy yourself.
Have a good
They
time.
play music over the speakers, whatever Caribbean music they want, whatever generic music that they've decided on. Um, but I know that music is picked out to not offend anyone. So you don't have the right to just come and offend someone's ears. I don't care if the music is bad, good, not good. It doesn't matter. Leave your goddamn Bluetooth at home. Leave your MP3 player at home. Hell, leave your cell phone alone. You're vacating your life. That's what a vacation is. So vacate the music you listen to. Step away from all of it, Tom, and just enjoy yourself. Don't go there and have other people having to file complaints against you, and then now it becomes a race thing. Why? Because the people who are doing this are black.
And trust, I'm pretty sure they're not the only ones doing it, but for whatever reason, they feel that they're being called out on it. But they do have cruises with themes on it. Of course, I know the Tom Joyner cruise has been going on for decades now. They don't really get into the ratchet; they get into the old school stuff. And I'm pretty sure that there are other themed cruises as well. I'm not a big cruise guy, even though I've been on a couple of cruises before. But I thought this was a pretty interesting story that it got to this point.
And Tom, look how Carnival is trying to tiptoe around this by not just coming out and just saying what it really is. So, Carnival, if you need a spokesman to come out and just tell the truth and speak up for you, let me know. I'm going to personally tell you anyone has a problem with any of these policies, don't take their money. It's not worth it in the long run. You're going to run off your customers trying to hold on to a few people who probably don't tip very well and is going to cause other problems for you. So just don't sell your soul to the devil.
All right, let's go ahead and go to the next story. Um, Interesting. Recently, Baltimore, Maryland, celebrated a historic community win in 2025 as it wrapped up the first half of the year. The city's mayor, Brandon Scott, announced that Baltimore has recorded the fewest homicides in over 50 years. Obviously, he's a young cat. In the same time period last year, the city had reported 88 homicides, nearly 22.7% decrease compared to the first 6 months of 2024, marked the fewest number of homicides in more than 5 decades. In addition to declining homicide rates, the city reported seeing a 19.6% decline in non fatal shootings, a 34% decline in auto theft, a 22% decline in robberies, and a 15% decline in carjackings compared to 2024. These numbers result from Mayor Scott's comprehensive plan to reduce gun violence in the city, launched in 2021 at the start of his first term. To heal Baltimore's long history of gun violence, Scott's strategy approached gun violence as a public health threat rather than a crime issue. By investing in violence interrupters, community organizations, and trauma informed support systems for impacted neighborhoods, Scott's goal was to reduce shooting by 15% every year over a 5 year period. He also, of course, acknowledged leadership of Baltimore's community violence intervention ecosystem, MONSE, MONSE, the men and women of the Baltimore Police Department, regional law enforcement agencies, and partners in state attorneys' offices, U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Office of the Attorney General. While Scott recalls people laughing at him, literally, for his community based approach, the number shows now that his plan is working. Between 2020, 2021, and 2022, Baltimore saw a slight decrease in homicides. But in 2023, it fell 24% compared to the previous year, and then fell another 23% in 2024. So for one of those cities, predominantly black, I believe still, in Baltimore, congratulations to Mayor Scott in making his city more safe for the citizens there and for the people who do travel there.
Tom, I would say pump the brakes just a little bit. Um, and the only reason I say that is because I think there's more analysis needs to be done. We already went through a period where a lot of these large cities have learned how to cook the books. Basically, they underreport crimes to the FBI. And so the FBI is the one who are collecting these stats. But if you look at some of the state agencies, hospitals that report crime into the state agencies, you end up with different numbers than what's going to the FBI. So if he's reduced the murder rate in his city, congratulations.
Yes.
If you're cooking the books and underreporting crimes into the FBI, then you're cheating, and the city's not any safer. I'll put it this way: when black women are able to go out at midnight and go to a walking trail or a jogging trail for a nice midnight run and feel safe, that's when I'll believe it. When I lived in Plano, Tom, we had a 7 mile walking trail. And sometime I would go out there at midnight, after midnight. And guess what? I found white women out there walking and jogging and exercising, and somehow never felt concerned that something was going to happen to them on the walking trail, even with a black man, me, on the walking trail with them. The city I live in now is McKinney. It's the same thing. Tom, we go out to the walking trail at the lake. You often see people out there after hours, really late, and somehow they feel safe. When black people get to enjoy that same benefit at their walking trail in parks, then I'll believe it.
Well, for what it's worth, you can go to Baltimore, you can walk around and kind of experience it yourself, but let's not automatically assume that he's cooking the books just because it's Baltimore or because he is a young man who is the mayor of a significant city in the Northeast. So, again, just like there was a lot of fire when people said how bad the violence was in many of cities that have a lot of black folks or a lot of black and Hispanic people, let's give that same energy when those numbers are coming down and you're actually doing something that may be working for the people there as well.
Well, Tom, I mean, I agree with you. And a couple of ways that we know that we can bring gun violence down is to get them off the street. Buyback programs, I'm okay with that. Um, Taking people that you suspect, search and seizures are at random. I'm okay with that. People who maybe have a past history that or are ex-cons who shouldn't be carrying a gun, they should give up their right to the search and seizure rights. And if the police see them on the street and recognize them, just in the fact that you're an ex-con should give them a right to stop you, question, pat you down, and make sure you don't have a weapon. I'm okay with that. So this story did not really talk about any of the things that are being done to reduce gun violence, other than some community intervention, which none of the details on what the community is doing. So you telling me social workers are out there basically bringing down gun violence? How are
They
they
didn't,
doing it?
they didn't mention anything about social
They
work.
didn't mention anything about anything other than some community involvement. That's my
Well, not
point.
just community involvement, but he talked about other organizations, whether it's the local police department, state level, and he even mentioned, of course, the attorney general, which is not a local office.
Okay, and what are these organizations doing, Tom?
Well, Jimmy, this is
They name
again.
one or two things that they're positively doing. They just mention that they're doing something. We don't know what they're doing. So
Okay, what we do know and what they are talking about in terms of the official statistics is that not just 1 year, but over several years since 2021, that those numbers have been going down. So you can, I'm sure, get access
the
to the
books have been cooked for the last 5 years. So
and you are assuming that the books have been cooked. You have
no, the books have been cooked, Tom, for the
no,
last
Jimmy,
5 years. A lot of
no,
cities,
no, Jimmy, come on, Jimmy.
come on,
You
yeah,
can't,
Tom.
you
A
can't.
lot of cities underreported crime to the FBI. About half of them didn't submit annual reports.
Okay, find
I'll
the
go, you
evidence
can
and we
go
can
do a
talk.
search on this. Underreporting a crime to the FBI. You'll see that this is a real story. A lot of cities were participating in it or deciding that they were not going to report any crimes to the FBI at all. So it looks like crime had come down in these cities, when reality is they were cooking the books because they just didn't report it.
Well,
Well,
maybe that happened in McKinney, Jimmy, but it doesn't
okay,
happen
Tom, I
every
don't think it happened in
so so
McKinney.
so so
We
give us
are the safest city in
but
Texas.
but they could be cooking the books as well, Jimmy. If you
No,
said that
Tom,
all
we're
these
the
cities
safest
are
city in
cooking the books,
Texas, so
they could be
we
cooking the
don't have
books
to
as
cook the
well.
books.
So all right. Well, let's go ahead and move
What's
on
the
to
next story?
all right, next story. Another story that actually it's been some years since we talked about this, but it looks like the good folks in Flint, Michigan, according to an international environmental advocacy organization, officials have completed the replacement of the majority of Flint's lead water pipes. We know what that catastrophe looked like several years ago when we had so many people who were exposed to lead poisoning, which could cause all types of problems internally. The state submitted a progress report to a federal court confirming the replacement of approximately 11,000. Oops, that is the wrong thing I was looking for. 11,000 lead pipes and examination of more than 28,000 properties. 8 years after Flint officials were ordered to replace the pipes at no cost to residents. Approximately 4,000 Flint houses still require some pipe removal. However, the homes were either abandoned and belonged to residents in the majority of these. A state official stated that all lead services lines would be removed later this year. Flint shifted its water source from Detroit to the Flint River in 2014 to save money. However, the new water supply was not treated to combat corrosion, resulting in one of the worst American catastrophes of public health in history. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that the water issue exposed approximately 100,000 or over 100,000 residents to lead contamination and poison.
Okay, Tom. This once again. See, I hate being put in this position where I have to be the bearer of bad news. But this is just another one of those get over stories, feel good stories. Here, let me tell you about water and how water works with entropy. You put a drop of poison in the water supply, and that poison is going to spread throughout. If you still have some lead pipes in replacing most of the lead pipes, and there's some that still exist. Well, guess what? You still have lead in your water supply. It's not like the lead poisoning is going to be restricted to just this pipe over here. When all the pipes are connected, when all the water is connected, and the water flushes in and out and moves around, so that lead poison is going to spread. Once again, the water supply in Flint, Michigan. Okay, you've made some progress in 8 years to replace some of the pipes. The water there is still dangerous. Please, people, get a water filtering system, which should have been the first thing you went out and did when they announced this by the federal government, by the state governments, that the water supply was damaged. There's no reason for people to be bathing, drinking, and cooking in contaminated water.
Agreed.
And don't sit and wait for the government to do something about it,
Where are
because
they
the
going to get
government,
that money from? Where are they going to get the money from, Jimmy, to do that level of replacement of infrastructure?
Tom, we do have something we call bonds, where cities issue, and that you can borrow the
But
money.
you know that has to come with an election, and you know that you have to go to election to get approval for it, and then of
Tom,
course you have to look at the time
are
that it's
you
going to take
telling
for
me
them to
in
get
eight
that money.
years that they couldn't call a special election, a bond election, to possibly try to borrow the money with state, local, and federal
Oh, I'm not
help?
saying that they could have. They could have, but the commitment was from the federal government to get it done because it
The
would have
federal
been.
government is not responsible for the water supply in Flint,
I,
Michigan. The
I
local
agree
city
with that,
council, the
but
mayor
they
is.
did get support from the federal,
And so any support they've gotten from the state and the federal government is just
and
icing
as
on the cake. Lanyap. The
correct,
city should have taken care of this, Tom. You tell me once you figured out by changing the water supply, maybe you should have went back. But if it was too late at that point, the damage has been done. Fixing
agreed.
some of the problem
Yeah, that I would be.
is
I
like
would
having
agree.
sex with a condom with holes in it.
And and
You're
and
not.
part and part of the issue with this story is that it took so darn long, which isn't really what I want to say. It took so darn long in order to get that. And some, of course, people recognizably so say that, if this was in University Park, it wouldn't have taken so long
It
if you
would
had this
not,
type of
Tom, because the
investment to
people
get.
in University Park wouldn't have put up, wouldn't tolerate it. But on top of that, if it had taken that long, you'd see every home in University Park with an external filtering system to filter their water. The people there just would not necessarily be bathing, cooking, and drinking lead water over some money. A couple of $1,000. Okay, maybe you don't have it, but you know what? You could ask for a grant. All this money going to environmental factors. Okay, well let's ask for an environmental grant to give everybody in Flint, Michigan, a water filter system. Somebody's going to make a lot of money. A lot of people are going to be put to work installing these systems. But at least the people who get them will be safe. To sit there and talk about, well, some of the pipes have been installed, or most of the pipes.
The point was that the large majority of them, and for those that have not, most of those.
Once again, Tom, the lead is going to be limited.
That had been abandoned.
The lead poison is not going to be limited to just a few pipes. As if you're on the other side of town and you don't use these pipes. The poison is going to spread throughout the water system. The water system is still dangerous. If we go back to our engineering classes on fluid dynamics, you'll see how things spread. Okay, take some water and add a drop of Kool-Aid to it and see what happens. Your whole damn glass turns a diluted color of the Kool-Aid. It just doesn't stay in that one little area where the drop hit. No, it spreads throughout the water. That's how fluid water is. The lead poisoning in these pipes is going to spread throughout the water system. Oh man! And then they want to report this story as if some progress is being made.
Oh no! You know what? Part of the issue with this report is that it, number one, took so long for this to happen, and the reason it took so long is because the majority of these people are poor, Jimmy. Those are the facts. Again, at University Park, this wouldn't have happened.
Tom, last time I checked, you can go to Walmart and get a Brita filter water system for about $30.
I'm talking about replacing the pipes because we're not just talking about drinking water.
I'm talking about if it's your kids, your wife, your children bathing in this stuff, taking cooking in this stuff, drinking this stuff. Are you telling me that you're going to sit back over a few dollars and not put in some kind of filter system? If nothing else, you can put in a sink filter system. Replace the filter every 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. At least your drinking water and cooking water will be safe. If you need to go somewhere and put a home filtering system in, there are companies out there that are financing $20, $30, $40 a month. It's worth the time to protect your family. I'm not trying to hear this poor stuff all the time. We seem to be able to find Air Jordan tennis shoes, support all these athletes, all these celebrities with these crazy ventures. My sister was telling me that somehow Puffy was going to make billions of dollars when he got out of jail by coming out with his own brand of baby oil because people are just going to go buy it because his name is on it. This is the kind of silliness that I'm talking about, Tom. And you telling me something is life critical as the water you drink and absorb through the skin and take baths in and cook with, you're going to do nothing over money? No, you find every reason, every way. If you got to put in that little extra hour, go collect cans, you do whatever you have to do to keep you and your family safe. This excuse about money, man, I'm just tired of hearing it. I don't think, as of today, not to necessarily put my business out there, but I don't know if there are too many people in the Black community who is as poor as I am at this point. And I won't be this poor for the next couple of months. I'll rebound. But at this point, I am the poorest, probably one of the poorest people in America. So I'm not trying to hear the poor thing because money can be replaced. You can always go out and get money, Tom.
All right, let's go ahead and move forward as we have.
What's our next story? I know you wanted to make that a feel-good story, but it's not a feel-good.
It was not a feel-good story. It was a report. It was not a feel-good story.
Okay,
but you interrupted
to make us feel good,
Jimmy. I can never get to the finish line. But let's go ahead and move forward. Another interesting story that has political implications is that the IRS, in a break from decades of tradition, says it will allow houses of worship, churches, to endorse candidates for political office without losing their tax-exempt status. The surprise announcement came in a court filing just this past Monday. Since 1954, a provision in the tax code called the Johnson Amendment says a tax code called the Johnson Amendment says that churches and other nonprofit organizations could lose their tax-exempt status if they participate in or intervene in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office. National religious broadcasters and several churches sued the IRS over the rule, arguing that it infringed on their First Amendment rights to the freedom of speech and the free exercise of religion. The IRS has rarely punished houses of worship for endorsements during religious services, though the agency has investigated churches over alleged Johnson Amendment violations. Only one church has ever lost its tax exempt status over politics in 1992. A church in New York took out ads opposing Bill Clinton, leading to the loss of its tax exemption. The federal court filing is part of a proposed settlement of a lawsuit filed by the National Religious Broadcasters and a pair of Texas churches that sought to overturn the Johnson Amendment. Those groups argued that some nonprofit newspapers and other publications have been allowed to endorse political candidates without running afoul of the IRS, while IRS rules barred churches and other nonprofits from doing the same.
So, Tom, we've had a special carve out for 501s, Cs. I don't know which letter it is, B, C, E, or F, it doesn't matter. But we had a special carve out that allowed nonprofits to raise money for political campaigns. So they could participate in the fundraising up to a certain point. This only makes sense that if nonprofits can raise money for political campaigns, then there's nothing, there shouldn't be anything wrong with them having a voice as to who they endorse. That's not the government endorsing religion or infringing on anybody's religion. If a church wants to endorse you for city council or for mayor or something, okay, more power to them. They bring you in to speak, which happens in a lot of black churches. They may not say we're endorsing you officially, but they may bring you in to speak, and you may leave an envelope for some money under the pulpit as you leave. But these things happen, Tom. So this is just a common sense ruling.
I found it interesting because, most houses of worships, they make it clear without being direct in terms of who they will be endorsing and or advocating, even though churches are supposedly not supposed to do so. So, it may come as a shocker to some people. And of course, in this country, we have always, in principle, said, separation of church and state, which is one of the reasons why it says that in most surveys, the large majority of the religious community are against advocating for political candidates, even though the majority of them indirectly do. And then, of course, to your point, a lot of them do slide a little money under the table, which, of course, is kind of cooking the books as well. But with that being said, it's something that could be used and ultimately also be, how would I say this, used for or against certain houses of worships in order to get them to endorse or advocate certain political candidates. So it can be exploited as well. And this just kind of opens it up for that. But it'll be interesting to see what this may look like.
Well, Tom, I think if the courts can conclude that corporations are like people and have some of the same rights, that they can raise money through their PACs, they can support candidates, they can do in-kind gifts. I know there's a cutoff date. So it's not just corporations, but it's nonprofits also, non-religious nonprofits. So why should the churches be singled out? I know we have a separation of church and state clause in the Constitution, but that was to keep the government from partnering with churches to have unduly influence over the people. The
And
King of
don't you see
England.
that risk if that opens the door publicly for that to happen?
No, I mean, Tom, that provision was put in because when the Catholic Church from England broke away from Rome, and it became the king's right to appoint that now the whoever was going to be the head of the Catholic Church in England. So that gave the king a lot of influence because the church had a lot of influence, and other religions weren't licensed or recognized at that point. So that's basically what separation of church and state was to prevent the king or the president or the governor from necessarily being able to buddy up with one church that has a huge influence, run the other churches out of the state or out of the country, and have that church super endorse him or her. So
Well,
that's
that already happens with a lot of our, state public educational institutions. And so, what makes you think that wouldn't happen with churches?
Tom, because the churches don't have that kind of influence over people now.
They don't have what kind of influence over people now?
that you can pretty much tell them who to vote for.
I didn't say tell them who to vote for, but influence
Chances are,
them.
whoever the church is going to endorse, the congregation is behind that person anyway. So this is not like you can go down to the Potter's house, Antioch, any of those other big black churches, OC, Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, and somehow any of those black preachers are going to come out to their congregation and say, "Hey, I need all of y'all to go into that booth and vote for the Orange Man." Tell them that's not going to happen.
What makes you think it's not going to happen? It has happened before.
When?
Indirectly, yeah, there are churches that have very influential pastors in probably every major city and small town and rural area in the country who have, to your point, the power of life and death in their words that they're preaching every Sunday. That could absolutely influence vote.
Tom, if you look at a church, I'm trying to think of a conservative church. Um, Oklahoma, what was that church?
Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts, where they just lost one of their founders, son of the founder. And but Tom, I'll be willing to bet whatever the politics of Oral Roberts was, that 90 to 95%, if not 100% of his own congregation already share those politics. It wasn't like he was going to, Billy Graham was going to come out, Robert Graham or whoever, and say, "Hey, I need y'all to vote for the vice president who's running," and as if that would fly and go across. There's nothing he would say to get his congregation to vote for Harris at that point. So if he comes out and endorse the Orange Man, chances are 99.99% of his congregation is going to vote for the Orange Man anyway.
But the
So
question is
the worst
that
time to
what they
influence
should be? But the question is that what they should be doing?
should be.
Should be doing.
If you let corporations and other nonprofits get involved in politics, then why not the church?
Because then you're going to have folks at a higher level being kingmakers in these very influential institutions.
Okay. I just don't think they're kingmakers. I think the people that go out there and cook the books on the votes and pick up extra ballots, those are the kingmakers, and that's not the preachers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think whoever the preacher comes out and say the churches, God said, we're going to vote and support.
Yeah.
Tommy
God
Duncan.
told me
Yes.
that this.
The congregation is already behind Tommy Duncan anyway. So there is no shock or surprise here. Once again, this is not Billy Graham telling his congregation to go out and vote for Kamala Harris. If he comes out and vote and support anybody, he's going to tell them to go vote for the Orange Man. And his congregation is going to do that anyway.
Open the doors. Snakes are going to come out. All right, Jimmy, we got a couple of minutes. Do we have any time for a short sports story, or do we want to wait until next week?
We can pick it up next week. Hey, people, we need your help and some feedback. Tom, you check the chat line. We need to pick out how we're going to do. We're getting a lot of participation on Movie Week. And like I said, we're going to add a new movie every week for you guys to go to our channel and watch. Please support us in this effort. A lot of people have so far. And I know that you guys are not all members because we have about over 500 subscribers. We've already had over 1,000 viewers of our first movie.
So first thing you need to do is become hit
the subscribe button.
Subscribe button.
Hit the like button. Join our channel. So, but then also help us figure out the logistics because we're still trying to figure out a day and a time. I don't know if we're going to just add it to our current segments. Maybe stick around another 30 minutes after the show to just talk about movies or do it on a separate show. But we will figure that out next week. We want to give everyone a chance to go to our channel and watch Drumline, A New Beat, so that you'll be able to talk about it intelligently. And Tom, if we do a separate show, we will also post the link on how people can join in on the show. And if you join in on the show, we may have a lot of people trying to get in. We can only take about another 10 people at a time. Join the show, say what you have to say, and then exit out if you don't mind.
All right, good deal. Well, that concludes our show. We want to thank everybody who dropped in today. We appreciate, of course, all of our supporters. And of course, if you have not done so already, make sure that you have subscribed if you like. If you share this information so that you will be the most informed person in your circle. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you next Wednesday.